Spartan Up Podcast with Mac Miller and Jackson Ash. I'm Kevin Paulus, and week number 2 of the podcast, week number 2 really of athletics here at Missouri Baptist. It was finally a full week. We finally got a full slate of games to talk about. We'll talk about all of them, but pretty exciting week overall, Jackson, of athletics here at MBU.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely finally got to see more of the Sockers stay here last week, and then I got the luxury of going to travel down with Tyler to go get some stuff.
There was a luxury to drive with Tyler.
To go to Cape Girardeau,
yeah.
Missouri, Fours.
Yeah, with cross country, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got to see both of our men's and women's teams race, and then we were back here Saturday for some more soccer. So it was an exciting week, busy week, as we even gear up for week 3.
Yeah, I mean, exciting for sure. Finally was able to write some articles and make some cool graphics for the men's soccer team, and Peyton was as well for the women's soccer team. Volleyball's been in full swing. They've been killing it, literally. Maybe not literally.
I see what you did there. That was funny. That was really nice. That was nice.
Yeah, maybe not literally. That sounds bad. But yeah, I mean, Gabby and Alana have been killing it.
Yep, we'll talk about them in a second when we talk game. Really, when you talk game by game, as far as women's volleyball, the busiest team by far here at Missouri Baptist. But I want to start by talking about cross country. We mentioned Jackson, your trip down to Cape Girardeau. Both the men's and women's teams competed in the Red Hawk Invitational down at SEMO. The men take 6th out of 8 teams. The women take 7 out of 10. And you're sitting there going, well, that's not very good. Well, it was the highest placing NAIA team in that field. They were outrun by teams like SIU, Edwardsville, and Murray State and Southeast Missouri State, all of these Division I NCAA schools. So you got to kind of look a little bit further down in the results to realize it's actually a pretty good result for both the men's and women's teams.
Yeah, and it's always super impressive that Coach McQueen takes them down to SEMO. They're seeing all this Division I, and that's a hard race to start out with. But that was not the case for Amet. Oh, I just lost her.
Aminati?
Oh, yes.
Isabella? Yeah, right.
Isabella Aminette. She had quite the race. I am going to say that early in that race, she probably had a good 100 yards on everybody, unfortunately. And but it was still super impressive to see her run. I was talking to Coach, and he was like, anytime we get a freshman that hits under that 19-minute mark, we are just jumping out of our chairs.
Yeah, the good news is she went out fast, and as some freshmen do, you don't first college meet she kind of ran herself out, but still top finisher for the women as far as the Spartans were concerned. And I do want to point out we did beat one NCAA Division I program, and that was Lindenwood. So we did place higher than Lindenwood in a cross-country meet, so that was kind of cool. Next up for them, they're off this week before they go to Columbia College. They'll participate in the Larry Young Invitational in Columbia on the 12th of September. Let's talk a little bit about women's soccer and Mac. It's been a bit of a struggle, couple of ranked losses for Dino and the girls. They're 0-3 on the season and a loss to Williams Baptist 6-1 last week. So just really trying to find their stride so far here in the early going.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were doing pretty good in the beginning, but there was a star player for sure on Williams Baptist team. I just remember she was number 6 because I had the stat, but I don't remember her name, but she was an insane player.
It was number 11, actually, yeah. Alvarado, I forget what her first name is, but 4 goals in that game as well against them. But yeah, it was rough to watch a couple of defensive breakdowns for their team. But they do have 2 games starting Tuesday night. They will take on Harris Stowe, a team that Spartans are 22-4-1 all time against Harris Stowe. So we'll be looking to right the ship. And then on Saturday, they play Benedictine, and that's a little different story. Never have beaten Benedictine, and last time we scored a goal on Benedictine was 2005. We've scored in the series 34-2. We've been outscored and going 0-9, but it's a new year, it's a new team, right? So Saturday we'll see that. It's a big day. Saturday we'll talk about that in a second. Men's soccer, women's soccer, and football all happening. But Jackson, let's talk a little bit about the women's volleyball team. They kind of got it rolling right now, 8-2. They went 3-1 this past weekend in Indiana, Indiana, not Indianapolis, but in Indiana.
Yeah, they traveled up to Upland to take part in that Taylor University invite, and man, they played well. I would say they kind of started slow. They had some rough sets that they were having to play early in the morning, but they were able to bounce back. And it was honestly kind of crazy. They handled all of those ranked teams and then St. Francis as well, pretty handedly, except for the host school Taylor. That was kind of the match that, and they said it was another early morning match, and I don't know what it took for them to get started. Then they brought the whooping to Mount Vernon Nazarene.
They beat Indiana Tech 3-1, then St. Francis 3-0, and then that Taylor match, the first one, I think they started 8:30 in the morning on Saturday. That's what you were referring to. They were up 17-9 in set 4, lost the fourth set, and then lost the fifth set. So they very well could have closed that out 3-1, but ended up on the short end to Taylor. But similar to what they did against Corbin weekend before, they picked themselves up and they beat number 14 in the country, Mount Vernon Nazarene, 3-0, just blew them out. So again, they can hit a bit of a sour note and then turn around and a couple of hours later maybe play their best volleyball of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be something they're going to have to fix, honestly. If you look later, and I know it's early in the season, and I know we've got a lot of volleyball left to play, but a lot of times you're not going to have that luxury if you go into the national tournament. It's not baseball. You don't get to lose and then come back and try to battle for it. You got to be playing every match to a T.
Absolutely. And then big news this week, obviously, everyone's excited about the first football game is going to be Saturday night, 7 o'clock against St. Ambrose. St. Ambrose actually will come into the game 0-1 as they lost to Briarcliff 35-23 this past Saturday afternoon. But just, Mac, your thoughts on football getting going and what you're looking for and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I don't know much about football. I remember this is how I got into athletic communications. I worked a football game for a little bit, and pretty much they asked me, "Do you know what a first down is?" And I said, "I'm gonna be honest, I do not." But different, I'm gonna have to be writing down stats, which I already didn't know what a first down was, so I am a little worried about that. But we will see how it goes. I'm confident because I somewhat watch the NFL, but I don't know much. We'll see.
There you go. Watch Taylor Swift's boyfriend every once in a while. So let's talk a little bit about the football team, Jackson. I know for me personally, and I know Guy Danhoff, if you haven't seen it yet, has done the coaches show this week. Have we put that out yet?
We just posted
Put that out. So be on the lookout for that. He sits down with Coach B and he kind of breaks everything down. But I know for me, and I've been talking about this before, Jackson, I really want to see what the defense looks like for this team. They're largely rebuilt on the defensive side of the ball. We're pretty excited about our quarterback, so the offensive line is going to be huge, and then finding someone that can catch the ball would be nice as well going into the season against St. Ambrose. So that's really the keys for me is, can we stop anyone? Can we block anyone? Can we catch the football?
Yeah, and I listened to Coach B when we recorded that today, and there was definitely a little bit of lack of a better word, hesitancy. I mean, you've got a lot of freshmen on that defense, and I mean, we were talking to Guy, and Guy goes, high school football is a lot different than college football. The pace is already immensely different, and then as much as every 18-year would like to claim, they are not a man. And then they get to see what a real man is when they're getting clocked 20 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I know a big fear that we all have is who we're going to have in those receiving slots with such a strong arm. And I'm definitely excited to see Gavin Cloud he's the big one. They talk about the return, somebody who's really strong, somebody who is going to get there. Honestly, I think if he maintains being healthy, he's going to be a weapon for us on the field.
Yeah, Gavin Claude and obviously Shane Becker, two names that we're very familiar with, are going to have to be huge for this receiving core. And then, real quick, I'll just touch upon men's golf. Actually, was invited to play in the Arch Cup. That is hosted by UMSL, and that's we're recording this on Tuesday. They're playing right now, so we'll see some of those results tomorrow. It's a 2-day tournament, so we won't know where they finish until tomorrow night. But men's golf is also in action. All of that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Jake Alvernia is going to join us. Of course, the men's head soccer coach here at Missouri Baptist. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back on the Spartan Up Podcast. Welcome back to the Spartan Up Podcast. And we're now privileged, we'll say that, to be joined by Jake Alvernia, the men's head soccer coach here at Missouri Baptist. Coach, how are things going so far? I know you guys are 1-1 on the season. Your thoughts so far on how the season's gone?
Yeah, so the privilege is all mine.
Yeah, there you go.
We've got a younger team, and so initially when we ended the season last year, we thought, okay, let's replace the 6. Like Ridley had been playing center back for us because of some center back issues and injuries and things. So we really felt good about it. And then obviously we lost a little bit more than that with some guys, moving on to D1 and stuff. So, so that kind of forced our hand a little bit to replace a few more than what we thought. But, the one thing that you notice this preseason versus last year is all the senior players, like the senior type led players that graduated, the Jack Carneys, the Pepes, all these guys that played a big role. And now you're dealing with new 4-year type players. It's just a different proposition. So, I mean, you take the game Ottawa, first game, I could see the jitters. Guys were quiet. I had a sense that it was going to be a little more difficult than what we maybe should have made it.
Right.
Certainly we're unfortunate to concede the penalty kick within a couple minutes. That kind of set us back. We battled hard and came back. And, in terms of that, to the win on Saturday, though, I thought our energy was much better. There was quite a few things that we improved on in energy and our effort and the ability to close space. And, we just left too much space against Ottawa. They did a good job to exploit it. And so it was a little bit more difficult than what it needed to be. But yeah, I'm excited about the guys. I think we had 5 freshmen starting on Saturday. I've always had freshmen start in my last 13 years as a head coach, but I've probably never quite 5. So yeah, it says a few things maybe. They're quality players. Maybe we probably have 8 freshmen that could start games for us. Give or take.
Yeah, lost 2-1 to Ottawa and then beat Concordia 2-1. And I did want to ask you, since you brought it up, how do you go about, and I know that you were kind of thrown a little bit for a curve with some of the guys that left the program and went to D1, and then you have graduations and, guys that just move on from the program. How do you go about, I guess I would say, like, roster development? Like you look at what you got. Do you just go out and just sign the best guys that you can, or do you are you at that point in the program where you just look at specific positions? Like, I really need someone to play center mid, or I know that I'm weak here. And do you recruit that way, or do you just say, hey, I just want the best, 20 guys I can get, and I'll find a spot for them?
Well, you could definitely hit all facets of what you just said, but to answer it more succinctly, like if I look to next year, we're going to need a center back. We're going to need a striker. And so yeah, you kind of look to some of the holes that you're dealing with or that are leaving. So like one of the biggest point probably for this recruiting class for this year was Jovan graduating, playing in the 6. And so when you got a guy that can be composed on the ball and kind of control the tempo and things like that, it's hard to bring a freshman to do that. I think Shimon, to his credit, I think he will get there. Maybe nerves have played a little bit, in that, in terms of the first few games for him, but he's a quality player, and I'm certain he'll get there.
But that was one of the positions that we kind of keyed on that we need to make sure, and we had another guy in that was homesick and went
Yeah.
back to Ireland, and he would have been a big help for us this
Mm.
year too. So, uh, yeah, it's kind of you have to assess what you're losing, and then you have to assess kind of where you're at from a budgetary standpoint and where we can and can't go get. This year we were fortunate we had a couple MLS Next guys that didn't get picked up by the D1s. It seems like there's been a little bit of a transition with D1s where they're not going with freshmen right now. They want something proven, someone that's been in the league or leagues for a year or two, and then they're trying to pick those guys up. So, yeah, you just have to assess what you're losing and what you think you might need for the next season. Sure.
Yeah, and something that I definitely noticed, being on the sideline shooting is that you do have a number of freshmen in, and a lot of those guys are rotation. Kinda talk a little bit more about this class and how they've already made an impact on the field.
Jackson, I think it's probably one of the better recruiting classes I've had, to be honest with you, in terms of the quantity. I mean, obviously, we brought 24 guys in initially, and so, but 21 of those 24 were freshmen, and so that's a lot, and for so many of them to have a meaningful impact on the first team is huge as well. But as you know, we started a little bit late this year for preseason, and so there's really not a lot of time anyway in preseason. But to start so late and try and get just working out patterns of play to style of play and to, trying to, and for someone that's coming in as a freshman, you were talking earlier about the difference between football, high school, and college. It's the same in our game as well. And so, you don't have as much time on the ball as you do in high school, or, maybe someone from Peru might have more time on the ball than someone coming from England. It's so you got all those different things. But in terms of the impact, I mean, they've come in and they've proven right off the bat that they can make a difference for us. Now, the understanding how to play the game at this level, like, these are things that, it's going to take time and learn. I mean, just look back to, Augie that was with me for the past couple of years. I mean, his freshman year, Jackson, there was a stretch of games, probably 5 games, he was struggling, and I stuck with him because he needed to learn, and back to the point, Kevin, maybe the D1s aren't ready to do that with a player. I prefer a 4-year player, honestly. So yeah, I mean, I've been pretty pleased with the class overall.
Yeah, I mean, just watching you guys play, I know from lacrosse there's always a necessity of a calm presence on the field, and that's something that I've been able to notice from even some of your freshmen. Like you were saying that Shimon may be overwhelmed sometimes, but that's the norms of a freshman, and that's very typical. But for example, Jonathan, I've already seen a calm presence from him, and he handles that ball so well. And I think that's really valuable as a fan, as a staff member, to be able to notice a calm presence from the field. So yeah, give credit to Jonathan.
Yeah, yeah, and he's been brilliant, and, but there's other guys too that are playing that haven't started. I mean, Gavin's an example of one of these as well. I mean, he hasn't started a game for us, but, he's a quality player from Liberty, and, yeah, so I've been pretty blessed in terms of, the young players coming in. I mean, I think the difference you see, without Craig being in there, he's a second-year player, but the presence you get from Craig is unbelievable. He steps into that game. Hey, Jonathan, you just mentioned, started at center back for us. He was center midfielder, but he has played that position in the past. And so out of necessity, we've kind of used him, in that role, like with Otto as well. But then having Craig in there is just a different level. So yeah.
This might be a little bit tougher question, but obviously we talked about guys moving on, going to D1s and things like that. It's kind of I wouldn't say like the reality of NAIA. You want these guys to come in, you want them to play well, but you don't want them to feel like they're outplaying what we can offer them at the NAIA level. Talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you retain those players? Because I mean, you don't want them to leave, you want them to stay, but what can you do, or what are the things that you try to do to that talent? If you bring a guy in that's really good, he might be, hopefully not thinking of us as a springboard to something else. How do you kind of retain that or try to?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm a second dad for a lot of these guys, so I look at them as, as my own in a way, and or try to anyway. And so from that perspective, you want what's best for your kids, don't you?
Yeah.
Even if it's leaving
Yeah.
to Canada for a job
Great
opportunity,
point.
whatever. So, so from that standpoint, I always want what's best. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of conversations I had with Marco since his freshman year.
Right.
He's freshman of the year, and he had D1s calling for him. And so we talked through that process. And then sophomore year, people were calling for him, and we talked through that process. And then last year, he fought through some adversity with his physicality and stuff and played through it. But then we talked through that, and he thought maybe it was the time. But it can also be a catch-22, Kevin, because I've had players that have left and went D1. I had a player that went to St. Peter's University in New York. He was runner-up for freshman of the year. He was a forward, scored 7 or 8 goals, I think, in his freshman year with us. Probably would have been first team all conference, almost guarantee like that next year. And he thought, I want to go pro. So if I want to go pro, I have to go D1. And he went D1, and I think he had 1 assist the rest of his career.
Right.
And so it can work the absolute opposite way too. And, it's one of those things. I mean, it really is a hard proposition for someone in it to understand, is the grass greener? Is it going to be a better opportunity, or am I putting myself in a position of failure? And sometimes you don't know until you take that jump, and it's a life lesson either way. But if a guy's wanting to leave, I'd want to talk him through it and just kind of see where his intentions are. I mean, not to get in like great detail about things, but like you could take Sergey from last year. I mean, he's doing great at Dalton now. I don't know if you've seen his stats, but I knew he would. He's a very good player. He was an impact player for us. And when you're looking at goals and the things that you're missing, trying to assess what you're going to raise, that was one of them. But SIUE was telling him, we're going to pick you up. And some of our ones were about me as a coach. If I were wanting you, then I had 2 players in front of me, one that I had to wait for until August or April, or one that I have in January. You take, what's the saying? A bird in one hand's better than 2 in the bush.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, there's significant different ways that
Now these 2 young kids are like, what did you just say? Like they're like, what?
I had
We just lost them here, Jake.
I'm
but,
part of the learning process.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, I think that's awesome. Like, that you actually advise them. And there probably are some kids that you advise them like, yeah, it probably is your best move to move on. Even though we'd love to have you here, let's talk through it and decide together.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to ask you, is that something that's common in the soccer NAIA level? Because that is nothing. I mean, it happened just recently this year where we somewhat got a little bit of D1 offers, but that is not something that is typical at the NAIA level for D1 for
So I've lost a few players over the 13, well, let's say past 12 years. Maybe just a couple, but not like last year, like the 3 guys gone. That's a little bit different maybe. And I think there has been a shift at the D1 level. Like I was telling Kevin earlier, they don't want to invest in with the roster size being cut, they don't want to invest in a freshman that's going to have to sit for 2 years to learn and just be a practice player. They're going to go get them from here, let me say it this way. So I'm on the executive committee, but right, and then soccer committee. And so I work the final site. So if you're not playing at the final site, they kind of want us to work it. So I'm working it. And you had D1 coaches at the final site actively recruiting NAIA players.
That's crazy.
I've never seen that before in my life. So,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's a wild, wild west anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. So tomorrow night you play Harris Stowe State. And I don't know how much I could tell from the sideline last year's game. I know that that's a crosstown rivalry those guys know your guys. It's always a grudge match, and it was a 2-2 draw.
Yep.
What's going to change from there to now to make the scales tip our way?
Well, I mean, last year was a good game from us. I mean, we were 2-0. We controlled a lot of that game, but they don't give up, and so they, it was a combination. 2-0 is like in soccer, they say 2-0 is the worst lead. And that was certainly the case, because if the momentum swings the other way and momentum can be an issue. And so, it ended up 2-2. And that was one that we looked back as not just a coaching staff, but the players looked back at that and said we weren't locked in for the 90 minutes. So, but look, they're a better team this year. They've got some good parts. They've got some results. I think they beat CMU 2-1, I believe, right? So, they had a couple draws. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. And to your point, some of the Serbians on our team and their team, there has been a little bit of talk. So, it'll be an interesting game. I mean, they move the ball well. They do a lot of good things. And, but, if we don't match or beat their energy, it can be a little bit more of a difficult game for us. So we got to go out and we got to improve on the little things that we did in film from this weekend. Some of our we need to maybe change some of our decision making and our build out. And I thought we put a lot of pressure on ourselves against Concordia that was unneeded. And so we've done a lot of film on that. So hopefully that'll help us. To where if we get up a goal, if we're fortunate, that we can maybe be a slightly different team this time than last.
Matchups, but have never beaten Benedictine. Only played them 3 times in history. They're making their third trip in a row here to St. Louis, 23-24. Now you guys will go back and forth, I guess, because they're in conference. But I know you just take it a game at a time. But maybe 30 seconds on keys to that game.
Yeah, well, they're a tough out, and they're a good team, and they. I think the first time we played them here, it was 0-0, and I remember saying to the coaching staff 2 years ago on that game, I think they scored with 16 minutes left, and I said if they didn't score, we never would have scored. We ended up drawing that game 1-1, and then we lost. I think was it 1-0 last year?
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep.
But they're a good team. I mean, they're usually well coached. They're composed. They're good on the ball. It's going to be a tougher day for us if our decision making is similar to maybe what it was against Concordia, because he had a younger team as well. And so maybe we were let off the hook a little bit there. I felt like we deserved to win the Concordia game, but we certainly made it easier for them to come out ahead. So with Benedictine, that's not going to be possible. So we need to kick on with, first off, we need to have a good performance against Harris-Stowe.
Right.
And we need to make sure we can take that confidence into that game. I think that'll be huge.
Awesome. And I always end with a final question for each of our coaches, and you can take a second to think about it. But if you were not, in your case, a soccer coach, what would you be doing right now with your life?
Well, that's
15 years here at Missouri Baptist, and I know it's hard to think back, but
in my former life, I was a manager. I mean, I had a business for 9 years. I managed for, I guess, 17, 18 of those in total. I guess I could look back into management. It might make my wife happier. I know when I do this, my kids, the first thing that they asked me was, why did you do that? Because we weren't taking the same vacations before. So I don't know. Maybe I would go back to making money.
Nice. That's a common theme around here, Jake. So, I appreciate that. But hey, we really appreciate the time, Jake. That is, and thanks for stopping in and visiting.
Yep. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
That is Jake Alvernia. He's the men's head soccer coach here at Missouri Baptist. We're going to take one more break, and we'll be back on the Spartan Up Podcast. Back to wrap things up here on the Spartan Up Podcast with Mac and Jackson. I'm Kevin, and we always end up every show kind of looking forward to the next week. And we talk about what are we most excited about, each of us individually. And I think all of us are going to say football this week, maybe for different reasons, but I'll let you start there, Jackson. And if it's not football, first of all, you're weird, but secondly, what is it?
No, it's definitely football. I mean, I can't say no matter what the circumstance is. I know last year the only under the lights one was the homecoming game against Mid American Naz, where we didn't perform so well, but nothing beats under the lights football at Spartan Field.
Mac, what about you?
I think I also am football, but I don't think I'm excited to necessarily watch. I don't know. Hold on.
Is that all what you do?
Wants to hear it. That's it.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna be writing down the whole time, so I don't even think I'm gonna get the chance to watch. But on the other terms of football, I'm thinking soccer. So I'm also excited for soccer. I'm just excited to play Benedictine in a different sport because lacrosse was a little rough playing them. So
Yeah, well,
we'll see how that'll go.
soccer is too. So we're gonna find out. But yeah, and then football for me as well. Like you said, under the lights, and really, it's the first opportunity for Coach B and the guys coming off a 6-4 season to try to put together, a back-to-back winning season. And if you look at their schedule with the Grandviews, with the Benedictines, with the Bakers, with the Mid American Naz, things like that, you got to win the games that you can win. And I think this St. Ambrose game is definitely winnable. I would almost think we might be slightly favored based off of last year's result, but you got to go out. You got to go out there and you got to do it. So step number one of having a winning season is winning a game, and hopefully we're able to get that done on Saturday. So that's going to wrap it up here for the Spartan Up Podcast. We appreciate you being with us, and make plans to join us next week. This has been the Spartan Up Podcast.